Hello and welcome to the DrivingMaul show here on Tuesday, the whatever it is of June, 15th of June. There we go. And I am Paul. I'll be your main host this morning, this evening even. Oh, geez, I'm so on to the morning sports briefing intro. Stephen, please do come in here and help me because I'm all over the shop, aren't I?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. It's great to be on the DrivingMaul once again. Always a privilege and a pleasure. And a very good evening to you, Paul.
Thank you very much. And folks, the reason I'm all a dither is I thought I was going to be on my own until about 2 seconds ago, but Stephen then joined us at the last second. How's your week going, sir?
It's actually going quite fast. Listen, it's Tuesday evening already. I can't believe it. So before you know it, it'll be the weekend and it'll be the big final on Saturday. Yes.
It will be the big final. Good evening, Batman, in the live chat over there in YouTube. Don't forget you can join us on YouTube, Twitter, and also Facebook as well. So hi, Batman there. Joining us. Some of the stuff we'll go through this evening. We'll be having a look at, obviously, you've already mentioned Super Rugby Trans-Tasman final. I'm not sure how much we can add to the show we did on Sunday there. We'll be talking about tackling below the armpits. There's a Wallabies squad. There's an All Black squad coming up. There's I've actually got some analysis of a Springbok squad that will be worth looking at quickly. We've got a Rainbow Cup final coming up as well as talk about the Farah Palmer Cup and Sky TV deal, as well as some feedback from Greenpeace about a potential All Blacks jersey sponsor. And we might even touch on some club rugby as well, folks. So lots going on. But first piece of news, Fetu Douglas has signed for Bay of Plenty. Stephen, I was a bit surprised by that one. And it'll be fantastic when he gets himself off mute. It'll be great podcasting.
That helps. Well, I thought you would have a lot more to say, but obviously not. Just on Fetu Douglas, yeah, no, good signing for the Bay of Plenty, and they're very much a forward-thinking union at the minute, and they've made a couple of other key signings as well. Obviously, they want to go that step better to in the Premiership in 2021. Remembering they did play in that semi-final against Tasman last year and acquitted themselves well, but they're obviously looking for a little bit more depth in their squad. Hence the signing of Douglas. Remembering earlier, they'd also signed Selby Rickett from Southland as well. So, boy, they are going to be putting some sort of side out on the paddock.
Yeah, definitely beefing up their pack there, which is interesting. We'll have a look at all of the ones this evening. Sorry, not this evening. We'll have a look at all the NPC squads ahead of the NPC folks. So don't worry about that. Last year, I got round and interviewed most of the or one member of the coaching staff of most of the unions. We might try and do that one again. Let's see how we all go. Someone used to. I was hoping their legendary Marty Banks comment on the DrivingMaul Facebook page this to be true. Yeah, the legendary Marty Banks puts TJ Perinara's face onto a blurred out body that Bay of Plenty had done, but no, TJ is not going to Bay of Plenty. In all honesty, players like TJ, Aaron Smith going to Southland, maybe, who knows? But he made it pretty clear to me when he did the Antlers sign after scoring that if you get an All Black, in all honesty, they never play for you. So those aren't the big signings. The big signings are players like Fetu Douglas, who are at or near international level, but not quite at the moment in the reckoning. And so, Fetu Douglas is a fantastic signing for Bay of Plenty there for them after they added Terry Black last season as well. Talking of a Terry Black, apparently he's gone and got himself injured in training, Stephen. Now, not that I'm a conspiracy theorist or anything, but the only way they can get Bowden Barrett into the squad is as an injury replacement. So has someone deliberately gone and taken out a Terry Black during training so they can put Bowden Barrett inside?
Well, I'll tell you what. If that's what's happened. Some teammate, I would say, if that's the case. And look, listen, I've only read or seen what I've seen on the news, and that he was hobbling away from training, and boy, that looked like a decent decent hobble unless he has some sort of miracle recovery over the next 72 hours or so. Who knows? Beauden Barrett, and then Beauden Barrett starts training with the Blues, so it certainly will be interesting. I would imagine they've probably got a couple of options. The Blues from their current squad, probably Harry Plummer into first five, and that leaves them with Stephen Perofeta as well. So at this stage, I probably think that if Teddy Black wasn't to start, they'd probably go with those two.
Yep. Well, I think Beauden Barrett will come in. Oh no! Apparently, okay. Simon says apparently Beauden Barrett's not allowed to play for the Blues as he hasn't started a regular season game. Well, you know what? With Super Rugby Trans-Tasman being a brand new tournament, and as far as I'm aware, New Zealand Rugby and Australia and Rugby Australia haven't released kind of a big document of the rules and regulations. I'm not sure anyone knows really what the laws and the rules are governing around this one. Yeah, we'll see what happens there with that one. But yeah, real shame for Terry Black not to have gone through all got the Blues this far and then not to be able to play in the showpiece final is a real shame for him. Pardon me, if that is what happens. Moving on to Greenpeace, then not a topic that we talk about very often in on this show. I'll be honest, but there are rumours that INEOS might be the potential sponsor for New Zealand Rugby. Now, you remember that AIG is ending its jersey sponsorship at the end of this season. Now, there have been a number of another one that was mentioned as potentially going on the jersey, and I've just gone totally blank, and I'm hoping it will jump to mind, is the same person who sponsors the French rugby team. And I put out I did a supporter special on that one, saying how it was basically such a bad idea for New Zealand Rugby to go with that one. We've got to remember the person who's the company's named after and runs the company, along with Laporte, was held for 24 or 48 hours by the French police over corruption. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. But INEOS is now the latest name that has been rumoured to go on the front of the jersey. INEOS are a company that's an oil company, basically, a petrochemical company involved in fracking in the UK, amongst other things. So has definitely is a controversial company. They took over the sponsorship of Sky, the cycling team, and now called INEOS Grenadiers, which is a four-wheel drive that the company's making. INEOS were also the people who sponsored that fastest ever marathon, if you remember, where they ran in a straight line, and the marathon runner had teams of people running ahead of him as well. So there are a number of sporting. INEOS also, I think, was the sponsor for the UK or the British America's Cup team, from memory as well. So look, they get involved in a lot of these sort of things, but definitely a controversial company. Stephen, what are your thoughts about having a petrochemical company on the front of the All Blacks jersey?
It seems to me, no matter who they run with, there's always going to be some sort of controversy of sorts, Paul. So, listen, if that's who they're dealing with at the moment, I suppose that's who it is. I must admit, I don't know a heck of a lot about INEOS and their dealings. Like most other people, I'd probably have to Google them and find out a little bit about them. But hey, in the interim, it seems like they're deciding to run with whoever's stumping up with the most cash at the minute. Yes, and other sponsorship deals have gone that way, whoever's stumping up the most cash, which I don't think is necessarily a good way for New Zealand Rugby to maintain its integrity, personally. But there you go. Altrad was the French one I was thinking of, by the way. So yeah, why would a French construction company want to sponsor the All Blacks? The only reason I can think of is because Altrad wants to have more say in how rugby is run globally. But hey, that's just a personal opinion there, folks. There are no facts about that.
The Ineos one, again, we're talking about a British petrochemical company wanting to sponsor a New Zealand rugby team. Again, it seems like a strange one from a purely commercial perspective. It seems to be much more about a kind of softening or putting good vibes around a brand rather than necessarily actually trying to sell anything, which is a bit of a different one. Coincidentally, to this today, I downloaded a podcast that is looking at Ineos and their business dealings because I'm an avid follower of cycling, and so I had downloaded that before I read this news story. So I'll be listening to that, and potentially I'll have more to say on the matter, either in a supporter special or on next week's show, folks. So we'll move on from that one. Sorry, it's a bad time to sponsor the All Blacks where they currently don't have a TV deal in the UK and Ireland. Yeah, maybe they don't, but they are still the biggest brand in rugby globally. The only one that even sort of has any shines of light at them is the British and Irish Lions, and that only comes around every 4 years. So if you want to get coverage beyond just a rugby audience, because the All Blacks are one of the few brands that gets beyond rugby audience, then they are the only choice. So they'll always have a sponsor. The only question is how big is the number?
Well, I have heard little birdie told me that the All Blacks could be changing their beverage sponsor.
Oh, who is it now?
I can't say.
By beverage, do you mean alcohol, or do you mean just other liquid?
Other. Well, it's sports supply.
Oh, sports supply. Okay.
Yeah, I think currently they are with Gatorade, but it could be Gatorade no more. But at this stage, my lips are sealed.
So, Stephen, can you think of Steve Cornflake? Can you think of any sports drink that might sound like Gatorade that is used by sports companies and may have been downed by a certain player recently on a post-match interview?
Yes.
What is it?
I can't remember what it was.
Oh, dear
I remember
me.
that controversy, wasn't it? It was quite a big deal. But I couldn't tell you what the drink was. It's all drinks, all the same stuff anyway. They all just, guzzle it away. I like Nocturnal's idea. I'll be up for a bit of, Bundaberg ginger beer sponsorship. That sounds great.
Well, they need all the aid that they can get to help them with their power on the field.
So that'll be Powerade then that we've seen TJ Perinara do sponsorships and for under his personal brand, and also Stephen Adams, the basketball player, is another person. So clearly, yeah, a brand that is associated with New Zealand sports stars. Wouldn't be surprised to see them there at all. See them sponsoring the All Blacks as well. So good evening, Cornflake. It's been a long time. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, fine. Same as always, but busy, flat out. But thought, seeing you had put a cry out for help, so I thought, a free for a night for once and a change. Everyone might be getting sick of seeing Stephen on the other side of things. So, bring a bit of balance, to the weekend as it would be.
Yep. So good-looking Steve is back, which is always nice to see. Even if I haven't got John O'Connor to say so. So that's some sponsorship news around that. The Rainbow Cup final is happening, and I think you can probably tell how important this cup is when I tell you who's actually hosting the final. Is Benetton. Now, that side that perennially comes near or at the bottom of the Pro 14 somehow has sneaked into the Rainbow Cup final. Admittedly, their last game was cancelled due to COVID, and I think they got they got enough points from that that got them through. They're up against the Bulls, who are having all of their Springboks taken out of their squad ahead of travelling up to Italy. So either of you guys in eager anticipation of this one, or this one of those ones that kind of like, oh my word, what's going on here?
I'll start. Yeah, I'll be setting my clock for that one. Well, I'll tell you what, probably the best news is the fact that all the Springboks have been pulled out of the Bulls, because I think that'll probably even it up, that I would imagine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Cornflake, you've been following this one with any interest?
Briefly, from a distance sort of thing, seeing how it's been going. But it's an interesting whole concept, isn't it? How they've done it, splitting the sides up and moving through to this sort of final. So it's been an interesting way to go about it. But yeah, you're right in what you've said about the whole competition. A lot of teams have, most teams have taken it less importantly than others. So it's been interesting to see how they've gone about their work into things. But yeah, the Bulls, a lot of new South Africans coming through the ranks of this competition. That's what I've found is, from a South African perspective, is probably where I've probably watched this more, doing a few bits and pieces in the build up to the Lions, seeing the names we've got coming through, players coming through, new guys building into these franchises, which is, I guess, what you like to see. And I guess we haven't seen South Africa as a country compete for quite some time. So I don't think it's going to make too much effect on there, but the future-proofing of the nation is certainly in safe hands. There's quite a few good, talented players coming through those ranks in those sides in South Africa.
Yeah, no, look, I think a lot of the Pro 14, a lot of the European teams have been taking this as kind of an early pre-season, which ahead of their off-season before properly pre-seasoning, and really looking at, looking at their extended squad, looking at players for next year in this one. Look, the Bulls have been by far the most successful side in South Africa during this last season over COVID, etc. So, they fully deserve to be there. But it is going to be a bit of an interesting one. 4:00 in the morning, according to Simon Hughes. And as with all things COVID, last minute window, got to get permission from governments to allow this to happen, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think that applies to any competition at the moment. Is that, yes, it's all due to all with the last minute potential changes in this COVID world. But you're talking about Lions and looking at the Lions squad. I don't know if you've seen this one from this tweet from AP. I'm going to say his name wrong. AP Cronje, Cronje from South Africa.
Cronje,
thank you. Dear me. So what he's done is he's plotted age across the bottom of the graph here and number of caps on up and down on the y-axis to show you, looking at the Springboks squad. At the old end of the stage, we've got the Mornay Stearns, the Francois Stearns in there, 37 and 34. He hasn't taken months into account by here, folks. It's just straight years. That's why everyone's on those lines. It's not they all have birthdays on the same day. Vermeulen out there, but I think he's pretty much, I thought he was injured, so we'll see if he actually gets to play. Interesting seeing Etzebeth there at 29 with nearly 90 caps as a bit of an outlier. But he's circled this kind of area here, which is the 26 to 30-year-olds with over 30 caps, showing that the Springboks have got a good core in there. Cornflake, are you happy with how the Springbok squad is heading into the Lions series?
I tell you what, you showed me this, and the first thing I want to see is the same graph done with the Wallabies team. That's what I want to see, because it would be an absolute shambles of a mess. It would be that little circle in the middle there wouldn't be anywhere near that sort of contemplated team, that's for sure. But hey, we know the Springboks.
This is a lead up into doing the Wallabies one.
Oh, brilliant. I want to see that when it comes out. I want to see that because there's a big thing. Yeah. They're already doing things about the Wallabies team, about how uncapped a lot of that squad is, but that's another topic for another day. These Springboks, let's be honest, we know enough about the core. Well, we know enough about pretty much all this team, don't we? What they're going to bring. Because like you said about that middle section there, so many guys at that sort of peak age of performance, peak age of development, they're at their prime sort of years. They're experienced enough now. Hey, they're World Cup champions. Remember, they haven't played for a long time together, but this is the same sort of core of that team that developed that squad through the Rugby World Cup in 2019. So these guys are great. I mean, why wouldn't you be happy if there's a little bit of youth come through? Afalele Fassi, I think a lot of people will be pleased that he's finally breaking through into that Springboks team. And yeah, plenty of ability, plenty of talent, experience. What's not to like? What's not to like? I mean, if you're a Lions fan, you got to go into that. You got to, you won't be licking your lips that they're going to clean sweep this series at all. And I like the South African team. They are just big, strong, experienced, and they know how to win.
Stephen, your thoughts?
Yeah, can't really add too much more than that I already said last week. By picking guys like Francois Steyn, Mornay Steyn, they're not going to stray too far from their game plan in terms of how they broke down England in last year's final, and that's exactly what they'll do. I think they'll try and bash the heck out of the Lions, and the Lions' best bet is to try and catch them early and try and maybe nab that first test and put them under a bit of mental pressure, because I think if they get beaten in that first test, I think the Springbok team will only get better.
Yeah, I think the good thing about this for South Africa squad is that there's not too many people in this top right hand corner, right? You've got Mornay Stern, Francois Stern, Vermeulen up there, but it's not overloaded. You've got a lot of people coming through the bottom here, which you mentioned Fasse, but we've got Wes, Van Straden, Nickel, Willemse, Herschel Janchis. There's a lot of young players, and Nkosi, who's also already got himself quite a few caps coming through. So the feeding there, the feeder is there, which something like a 2003 England squad wouldn't have. You'd have lots of players up in this top right-hand corner, where you'd see which as old experienced players. But no, this is a squad setup that can grow, and they're already World Cup champions. So a good view here. Now, I only put this one in really just to introduce you to the concept ahead of doing the Wallabies one, because as Cornflake said, the Wallabies one is interesting and fun, and so the Rugby Fixation podcast took Cronier's idea and did the exact same thing for the Wallabies, and it is somewhat different. Which essentially has everybody at the bottom of the chart with sort of Hooper, Slipper, O'Connor, Tamua, CO. Look, with only 5 players over 50 caps, only 9 players over 30 caps, there's a massive difference here for the Wallabies one compared to the Springboks one. And since Cornflake, you so wanted to see this, I'll give you first chops at giving us your thoughts.
Hey, it's good and bad, isn't it? This is better now than it is in a year's time. So this is a good time to get these guys. I mean, Australian rugby's changed a lot over the last couple of years, and I think I for one, probably should not criticise this, because I've probably called for this more over the last couple of years, that they should be getting rid of that old wood. They should be getting rid of those old guys that just seem to be part of that old Wallabies club that keep getting selected, probably weren't performing as they should be, keeping guys out of the teams to develop this young, youthful group that were coming through. They performed so well at under-20s and tournaments like that. Now they've started to come through. And I mean, I can't really criticize this, because now they need to find out what these guys are made of. And they've performed. Let's not talk about Trans-Tasman, because that's been probably a bit of a mess for the Australians. But through Super Rugby AU, we saw a lot of these standout guys performing, and teams like the Reds and the Brumbies, and guys that the Western Force last year wouldn't have even thought about any of them getting in the Wallabies. But now they are playing at a decent enough level that guys can make that step up to the next level. We'll just leave the Waratahs out of that conversation, though. Somehow they've had 6 players, I think, picked in this Wallabies team. Okay, hopefully they perform a bit better.
I think the Waratahs were the second most players in the squad, second equal most players in the squad. And you're like, how? Now, admittedly, Michael Hooper adds to that, as he's been playing in Japan, and he's officially a Waratahs player. But even
throw him in the bin.
Oh, you can't. He's one of only 2 players with over 100 caps. He's a captain.
Time to go.
Stephen,
look, you've got the Reds back row. That Reds back row, I mean, that's the future. That's future. McWright and Wright, those 2 guys, their talent exploding. They're all over the place. But yeah, there's lots of questionable ones in there. Callaway, for me, I don't understand that one. That's a bit of a weird one for me. But a lot of guys deserve that. Like for Kitty, I think is one guy who's been amazing in a pretty average team. So this is the time. Go do it. You find out pretty quickly how good these guys are. They're either going to sink or swim pretty fast.
So, Stephen, how many rocks are we picking off the bottom of the ocean then that have sunk on this one?
There's a few, but hey, guys, this is just a byproduct of their policy a few years ago to let guys head away overseas, and I think they probably originally thought that it would just be some of their top guys who wanted to go away and earn some cash. The problem is you had a lot of guys who'd only played a couple of seasons for the Wallabies who decided to go away, head overseas and play, which is a shame because they have got some good players. You know, you can think of somebody like Skelton who's playing over in France. To me, he's still a good international lock who would add a lot of physicality to their pack. But I endorse what Steve says. Actually, I don't agree with him all night, but you know he's right. Better this be happening now than a year out from a Rugby World Cup, and they really had to start from somebody. But I still reckon their jewel in the crown is actually their coach.
Yeah, look, he started last year. You know, there's a whole bunch of players down here like Valentini, Wilson. You mentioned McWright. There's Wright, Paisami, Parisi. There's a lot of players. Swinton also. Well, apart from that red card he had the other day, there's a lot of players in this bottom bracket here who got a few caps last year, and that's and are starting to grow. You'd like to have a few more older heads around them, so that when things do, so to give them a bit of experience when things do go against them, which they will do, they're there to help them stand up. But the flip side of that is you've got a side here that's not used to losing to the All Blacks all the time as well. So you've got a side here that will perhaps, and I'm talking about that from under 20s all the way through. They are used to having some sort of parity and beating people in black jerseys. So perhaps they won't go in with some of the same mental scars that sides have done over the past 5-10 years from the Wallabies on this one.
Paul, there are times in the past you could have actually said nobody from an Australian team would go close to making an all black team. But you know, Taniela Tupou, he'd probably go close to making an all black side. You know, at the moment, probably Harry Wilson, who reminds me of a young Kieran Reid, the way he sort of gets himself ranging wide, and he's just got a real similar running style as well. Valentini, you know, if it probably wasn't for the likes of Frizzell being injured at the moment, boy, he could easily slot into a six position as well. These three players alone in the pack, you know, come World Cup, these guys will get even better. I'd throw Lockie Swinton into that lot, but he'd have to sort out his discipline. But boy, he's got an impressive stature as well. He looks about 6'4", 6'5", throws himself about probably a bit too much. So they have got some guys that could actually develop into real world-class players. And even somebody like Tate McDermott, who I was so impressed with last Friday night, he is a good, tough little halfback. I know they're probably going to have a lot of their plans around Nick White, but they have got some guys there. It's unfortunate that Parisi from the Waratahs is got an injury at the moment, because to me he looks like a genuine linebacker, and Banks at the back, you know, he just gets better and better. Doesn't really make a lot of mistakes. Got a good core skill, or set, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to pick a hole in the Australians over the last few weeks, I think what Paul said about the experienced players around them, I think the experienced players have lost their plot. The Reds, since we pinpointed the Reds so much, seeing that first game, the Reds and the Highlanders, actually watching that live up in Dunedin was phenomenal, because I was so excited to see the Reds, the way that James O'Connor was playing, leading that team around the park, and to watch that match and not watch it on TV, but actually watch where those players were going outside of where that TV screen is. It's just a fantastic thing to be able to see it so differently, and to see the leadership that he didn't show, and key players and older players in that team didn't show. It's exactly what Paul says. It's like, we're playing a New Zealand team now. Against the Brumbies, O'Connor was everywhere. I think I've seen him touch the ball a handful of times in that game, and so often away from the play, avoiding going into that first, despite playing at a fly half position. I think the Reds suffered that whole Trans-Tasman season by not having James O'Connor had a fantastic AU season, but he went completely off the boil, not having that guy there. And you've seen that injury at the end of the season. Was he playing off that? Was he, avoiding contact because of that sort of thing right from the start of Trans-Tasman is a possibility. But I think, that is a team that had to pretty much learn to carry themselves without that sort of talisman guy. And I think this is the time that the Wallabies need to learn to carry themselves without those talisman players as well. And very quickly, these young guys have to grow up and become international footballers. And that's where the Wallabies are right now. And it's going to be interesting to see how those guys adapt from doing that at Super Rugby level to doing it at international level.
Yeah, well, and he did another thing where he where he put together the most experienced and least experienced sides, the most capped and least capped, which was an interesting one. The most capped side has 556 caps. The least capped side is 7, which is just nuts. 3 of those is Angus Bell, who, if we go back to the previous one, is the youngest person in the whole squad, which is just nuts as for a prop. Your youngest player in the whole squad is a prop there. And even the most capped one, look, Pangamosa, only 9 caps. Nazarani, 8 caps. Wilson, 6 caps. Paisami, 6 caps. I mean, you've got 4 players in there in your most capped squad with single figures. That's nuts. This is a very inexperienced side that is going to that I think 2023 is going to come too quickly for them. And unfortunately for Dave Rennie, that's the end of his first contract. Will he get signed up for another 4? We'll have to wait and see. But really interesting to see how. Now, I don't expect either of these sides to actually play. Obviously, either the most capped or the least capped. But it just gives you an idea as to even that most capped one has got some really inexperienced players in there compared to that least capped one. I mean, 556, of which 205 are with 2 players. So that leaves a 351 for the rest of the squad. Interesting ones there. Another thing that he did was he did a squad of players that haven't been picked. 15 of players that haven't been picked. Robertson, Faenga, Harry Johnson-Holmes, Hosea, Rodder, Lee Warner, Wright, Samu, Powell, Harrison, Vunivalu didn't get in. Simone, who was there very much last year, Godwin, Pataya, and Campbell. So a couple of good names in that lot as well, Stephen.
Yeah, you talk about. I can actually see, even though they're young and experienced, you can actually see some guys that are going to be genuine world-class superstars moving forward. The likes of Parisi, Jordan Pataya. Imagine those 2 in the midfield. Gee, there'd be a handful for anybody. I think Pataya got that injury early in the season, so we never saw a lot of him. Vunivalu's still feeling his way in this game, but you've seen the skills that he brings. I just think it's just early in the piece, but I can probably see a core of these guys going on to make a really, really good Wallaby team moving forward. And you're right, 2023 is probably going to come a little bit too early, but boy, they're going to be an awkward side for a lot of teams to play. I'd probably still. I know they didn't perform at their best against the Argentinians last year, but got to forget it was only really a kick that thundered into a post down at the Cape Town. That was the difference between them not sort of drawing a series with us 2-2 last year. So they're not that bad. Okay, they dropped their bundle in a couple of games, and you knew that the All Blacks would bounce back at Eden Park. And I think probably, if you could be critical of Dave Rennie, probably experimented just a little bit too much in that return game that they played in Australia and got duly punished for it.
But now he knows so much more about his squad, right? It's about the Rugby World Cup for him. So yeah, absolutely. Cornflake, any of these names in there? Do you think they're a bit unlucky to miss out?
I mean, you got to play the long game, don't you? I mean, this is a little series versus France, and there's a lot of names in there that you'd put on a Wallabies team sheet quite comfortably, wouldn't you? The likes of Samu and Powell, and like I said, Pataya, Simone's been good. Vaivalu, I mean, once he gets sorted, he's going to be, he's a weapon, man. His ability under that high ball is just mad. What he can do with that league background is crazy. But yeah, plenty of guys, everyone on that list, you wouldn't look out of place in a Wallabies team. Bar probably I'd not be too keen on seeing Godwin in a Wallabies jumper just yet. I've not been impressed by his development over the last couple of years from when he was such a prodigy talent. He's kind of flatlined a little bit, which is a bit sad, but he's still a good player. But yeah, plenty of names, heaps of names. Will Harrison, what do I have to do to get him in a Wallabies jump? I've been saying for 2 years he deserves a shout. He still doesn't get there. Best fly half in the country.
Now, I'd just like to point out that the difference between the Highlanders making a final and not making a final was a kick by Godwin to score that last minute or that late try by the Western Force to stop the Crusaders getting a bonus point. So how can you diss Godwin when he's done that?
Straight in the Wallabies. Jeez. Straight in the starting lineup. Godwin, that number 12 says.
But you know what, guys? You think about the depth that they're actually creating at loose forward. Think about the loose forwards that they've actually got in the squad, and look at the guys. Probably if somebody wasn't injured, he probably gets in this team. You know, you've got right there, you've got Lee Warner there. So already they're actually developing some depth in some certain positions. I'll tell you what, you'd be unlucky if you're a loose forward over there, especially a 6 or an 8 at the moment, because they're actually developing some nice depth in certain areas. First 5, yeah, probably a little bit thin outside James O'Connor, but yeah, you're right about Harrison. He's actually been pretty good at a team that struggled.
Yeah, look, it's and yeah, some of these names on this list because they are injured, not because they weren't picked for their skill level or ability. But yeah, good to see that kind of those kind of names around. The main last bit of news: Farah Palmer Cup is every single game is going to be live on Sky this year. So fantastic news from Sky on that one. I don't know who is behind all this, but I think around the Mitre 10 Cup or around the provincial rugby, there's been a number of very good things happen. First off, they've stopped calling it the Air New Zealand or the what was it after that? I've gone blank as to that building company. ITM Cup.
Mitre 10.
There was ITM and Mitre 10. Yeah, so they've gone away from being a sponsored name back to the Bunnings NPC. So bringing back that NPC piece, I think, is a fantastic move. Look, they're going to be televising all the Farah Palmer Cup. That's another good move. So a number of good. There's going to be one NPC and one Farah Palmer Cup live on free-to-air television every single weekend as well. So 3 very good moves happening around the provincial side of things, going back to its proper name, having all the women's games live stream available live, either streamed or on Sky, and having some rugby on free-to-air live, not delayed by an hour once everyone knows what the result is, but actually live. So some real good decisions being made there, folks, in the provincial space. And I think I've probably covered everything there, but if you've got anything to add to that, otherwise we'll quickly talk about Simon Hughes' comment there. That the USA are going for the 2027 and the 2031 or the 2031 Men's World Cup, and also the Women's 2029 World Cup. This is also Australia going for the 2027 World Cup. Interesting ones there. I'm not sure that the States will be a good choice in 27, but 31 might be a good idea on that one. Finally, then, the fun piece, boys. Want to surprise you on, because I haven't prepped you for this, but we need to pick an All Blacks 36 squad, because that's going to be happening next week, live on. It's going to be announced live on the breakdown, or whatever it's called, on Sky. But folks, you don't need to watch that, because myself, Stephen, and Steve will be putting together the team, or the squad that will be picked to give us some help, folks, I have got the 38-man squad that they chose for the Rugby Championship last year. This year, it's only a 36-man squad, so we're going to lose 2 players out of that one. But kicking us off at hooker, last year we had Amua, Coles, and Taylor. In all honesty, boys, can you see any different, or do you think we're going to see the same 3 again?
My pick would be the same 3.
Yeah, same 3. Agreed.
Ash Dixon is the unlucky son.
Oh, hard out, Steve. Anywhere else in the world, he's probably played over 50 tests easily.
Yeah.
So yeah, the only Bolton might be Ash Dixon, but that's. But I think we're pretty much. Say we have got some. I can either. I think nailed on is all those 3 in that one. In the propping department, last year we had 7 props with Bauer, Hodgman, Lualala, Lomax, Moody, Twinakathi, and Tongafasi. I'm going to say that we actually only need 6 props. We don't need 7, as to try and get us down to 36 from 38. So which 6 props do you think you would go? Sorry. Are we picking who we think Foster will pick, or are we picking those who should be picked? I think we're trying to predict who Foster will pick, but we might mention if we think someone else would get in there. To my mind, Twinakathi and Twangafasi have both done themselves the world of good recently, and so I can see both of those going straight in. Which other names there do you think are nailed on?
I think probably you'd still go Terrell Lomax, because he's probably he's another tight head prop. Although I think you probably have Nepo Lalala as well. I think that's probably 4 that I'm reasonably confident with. Hodgman, to my way of thinking, I don't know if he's been overly great during Super Rugby. Let's not forget he got suspended as well, for, ironically in that Highlanders game. I think he probably comes into the mix. Not entirely sold on Bauer. I have enjoyed the young guy from the Highlanders, Ethan de Groot. I think he could be a bit of a bolter, and yeah, I don't know. Would you'd agree with that, Steve? That the 4 that we've got there thus far, Steve?
Yeah, I would agree with you, but I think guys like Lomax, discipline-wise, he needs a bit of work as well. And you look at him in a Hurricane scrum that's been pretty decidedly average. I don't know if obviously he's not fully to blame for that, but yeah, I'd kind of like your All Black front rowers, especially to be part of a pretty good front row, and I guess that's something the Hurricanes have always really struggled with, which is probably why half the reason why they got a player like Lomax from the Highlanders a couple of years ago. But yeah, of what we got, I mean, the scenario we talked about that other teams, Italiano Tupou would slot quite in there nicely, wouldn't he?
Oh, he'd be great, wouldn't he? Aiden Ross is probably another one from the Chiefs who's been pretty impressive as well on the loose head side.
What about Joe Moody?
Is he injured, or is he available?
What's the situation? Yeah,
I'm not sure, but to me, at 32,
yeah, if he's available, he's a
yeah.
If he's
for some reason, think he's not.
So we think that there's one place up for grabs really, and we'll George Bauer. I think he's probably slipped down a bit. But
I'm going to take a punt on Ethan de Groot making it.
Well, it's not going to happen. It is a really long shot. But that young Crusaders guy, Tamatini is his name. No, that's the halfback.
Yeah.
Tamatini, that's his name. Yeah, he's a talent. Oh, he's not going to be an All Black this year, but boy, oh boy, put him on your list for the future. He's a phenomenal young player.
Aidan Johnson, boys. Alongside right, Paul, I can see he's done well this season.
I mean, the Highlander scrum's been good, but yeah, don't know if I quite go that far.
Yeah. they'll go with guys that they had had last year. Like Hodgman, to me, is the guy who's probably in danger of dropping out.
I think Ethan de Groot's got a fantastic chance to be getting in there. To be honest with you, in the locks, then last year they had 5, which I think we'll stick with. Let's be honest, Scott Barrett is nailed on, as is Sam Whitelock as well. Let's be honest, I think Vai is also in there. Then we've also got a certain Retallick
Yeah, that guy
coming back, which then leaves us with just one more spot. So we've got some of the names in there: Patrick Tuipulotu and Mitchell Dunshay were the 2 there last year. I think Dunshay probably has slipped back a bit this year.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's been up to the same sort of standard. So I think we'll probably see Patrick in there. But I do think there's so that's I can't spell Brody, but never mind. You know who I mean. Is that who you see as being a 5? Barrett, Whitelock, Vai, Retallick, and Tuipulotu, or do you reckon someone else will get in there?
No, pretty much.
Yeah, you can't go, especially that first, Barrett, Whitelock, Retallick. Yeah, no one's going to nudge those guys out. So I mean, it's the future. The Tuipulotu is a fantastic young player, and Tuipulotu is a guy that they really, really like. So I can't see them going past him after a number of seasons now of pushing him through that system.
I just want to see Paddy Parkinson stay on the paddock for a whole season as well. That would be really
Ain't
good.
happening. Although he's getting the list.
Yeah,
He's definitely in the he's in the bolter section, right?
well, he's in New Zealand Māori lock. We shouldn't forget that. So he's got to be in the top half a dozen locks in the country.
No, agreed. Yeah, he'll be. He'll have to get some time there. Amongst the loose forwards, then, looking at who was there last year, Sam Cane. We should probably actually need to add an injured column, because that's where Sam Cane fits, unfortunately.
Do we add Savir in that same column?
Artie's back.
Artie's back, is he? Okay.
Yep, he played last weekend. So Artie's a definite. Looking at the other list, other ones who were there last year, Shannon Frizzell. We've got Cullen Grace. I think he's probably in the bolter section at the moment, unfortunately. Akiri Awani. Who else am I bringing over? Duplessis Karifi, Dalton Papulehi, and Hoskins Satutu. I think Karifi would be a lot of bolter to me at the moment. Now I think he's really slipped down the rankings. Dalton Papulehi, I think, is nailed on to be in there.
I think Billy Harmon you should put into the bolters as well.
I don't have to come on here and praise the Highlanders anymore. I mean, Stephen's doing it for me. He's taking all my ammunition. Taking Billy Harmon, Ethan de Groot, Putty. Oh, goodness me.
Oh, sorry. So is injured again. I thought he'd just come back from his knee injury. What do you mean he's injured again?
No, he got injured. If you remember, he left the field in that game. Played last week, but he went off injured.
We'll have to see that one then.
They don't know the extent, and that's why I've put Billy Harmon in the frame. I think Papa Ali will probably, if not, definitely make the squad. To me, he's probably been the Blues' most consistent performer.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking of number 8, so obviously we've got Hoskins Satutu in there. I've just gone blank as to who the Chiefs' number 8 has been this season.
I literally just had his name to tell you. Yeah,
Jacobson. Thank you,
Jacobson. That's it. And you got Boshier as well. What's the situation on him at the moment?
I'd be very surprised if Luke Jacobson, Hoskins Satutu aren't the 2 8s that are in there. You think Boshier is really there?
Well, he's been around the traps for a while, but I mean, he's not had his standout year he probably did a year or two ago, that's for sure.
I'd probably be tempted to put Tom Robinson in the bolter.
I think this is kind of telling now as to Frizzell apparently is also injured as well. Oh, geez. Is there anybody fit?
Frizzell's been out for a couple of weeks. He didn't play last weekend.
If that's the case, then Akira Iwani goes in as 6. As locked in to be honest with you. And I think Luke Jacobson, Hoskins Institute will be the 8s in there. Any other names? Because I think there's a lot of bolters here, but no actual.
Why are we not liking Cullen Grace anymore? Is he fit?
You think he's in there?
I like him.
Gee, I'll tell you another bolter. Gee, remiss of us as well. Ethan Blackadder.
No, yes, that's fair.
Yeah. So to me, actually, I think I'm going to put those in. Actually, I think Luke Jacobson's in there because I don't think Hoxton Institute's had as good a season this year. So I think there's a number of places up to grabs in loose forwards compared to some of the other positions. Whereas lock, I think we can say, right, that will be the 5. In loose forwards.
I was going to say, I think Grace and Robinson are probably battling it out for that position. Both extra line-out forwards. They've got great work rates around the field. But, that's the question, I suppose. You've got to get inside the mind of the selectors. Are they happy with what they saw with Cullen Grace last year? I know he hasn't been as dominant as he has been this year, but, why would you just chuck him on the scrap heap?
Yeah, young guy too.
They do like to. They do like consistency on. Devon. Flanders as well. But I don't think Flanders is a. He's had a good season, but I wouldn't put him in the All Blacks selection in the All Blacks conversation.
Look good at 8, hasn't he? When he's gone to number 8.
Moving into halfbacks then, and TJ Perenara and Aaron Smith will be there. The question really for me is that final place for Brad Webber, or is it for Folau Fakatava?
Well, Fakatava's still injured.
Still injured? Still out?
He's still injured.
I don't think he's back till next year.
Yeah, he's out for the season as far as I'm aware. Although he's still walking.
Well, then I think Brad Webber gets it again. I just can't see them changing. They'll stick with the same 3. I think Folau Fakatava would have been in there if he wasn't injured.
Yeah, I guess it depends how the season. On the form he was playing at, 100%. But he did miss, over half of the technically season, didn't he, by missing all Trans-Tasman. So if he could have kept that form up, 100%, he would have been in there. Would have been a real battle with Brad Webber.
The Finley Christie is a bolter. But I think he really is a bolter.
It's a hard spot to get into.
Maybe not for Scotland.
So a Scottish podcast put out on the fact that Finley Christie has put his apartment up for rent. And I pointed out to them, yes, that's because he plays in Auckland during Super Rugby, and then he goes down to Nelson to play in the NPC. And therefore he puts his room up for rent when he's out of Auckland. Look, there's a comment here saying I don't think Perenara can play until he plays a domestic game. Sure, he just has to play one club game. That's fine. I don't think there's a problem with him getting. TJ Perenara, I think, will be straight back in. I can't see them getting hung up on that one.
I know we're picking what we think the All Black selectors would pick, but for me, I'm just not the fan of the old boys coming back and just waltzing straight on in. As good as a player Perenara is, what do you lose here, especially against, no disrespect to Fiji and Samoa and Tonga and that they were playing, but isn't this a great chance to bring in some little young guys who are off the bench 20 minutes in the system, the guys that you really like. That's just me. If I was picking my team, if I was coach of the All Blacks, she would be a little bit different, especially with the old guys. Their Perenara work his way back into the system.
Maybe a saviour, right?
I thought Brad Webber would be the one to miss out.
No,
I could be wrong.
No. Keep him here. Give him that lucrative carrot. Here you go. Have a couple of test matches. during these couple of months, Brad, and re-sign that little contract. Take the money that Laumape left behind.
Aaron says he agrees with you that TJ. So maybe TJ will be.
They'll take him. They'll 100%. If we're picking what the All Blacks will take, they'll take him. But I'm saying if it was me, I would. That's one position I would certainly look to, because I mean, there's a host of talent out there knocking at that door at the number 9 jumper.
So apart from Finley Christie, who else would you put in that?
Both the Crusaders 9s, although they're not the youngest. That young Chiefs guy. What's that?
So I think they've seen them before. The Crusaders guys. I can't see them going back there unless there's injuries. You talk about the Crusaders, you talk about the Chiefs, and you talk about Triple T.
No. The young guy that's been kicking Brad Weber out the last couple of weeks.
Xavier Rowe. That would be a hell of a.
Oh, for sure. But this is what I'm saying. Future.
That would be a massive
man's on me.
Xavier Rowe to make it, but we'll see. Fly half then. Bowden Barrett and Richard Mwanga walk straight back into the squad, and I know you're both going to say, "I wish they weren't," but I can't see Bowden Barrett not coming straight back in. In all honesty, and I don't think any of the other have any of the other 10s put their hand up.
Come on, back my Highlanders once more. Come on.
They got Mitchell Hunt as a bolter.
Not Mitch Hunt. Goodness me, he's worse than a tap when it comes to goal kicking. You've got Bowden Barrett in there at the best of times. No, Ioane for me, even if you're covering him at fullback or where you're going, his running game is astonishing. I really enjoy watching Josh Ioane play.
Fullback season. There's no way they're going to pick him at 10.
No, but he'll be in the squad as a cover, 15 cover, 10 cover. He has played at 10. He hasn't started at 10. But you watch them play. Mitch Hunt and Josh Ioane never stay in their position. Never. Mitch Hunt spends more time at fullback than he does at first receiver, especially defensively.
So we reckon that Josh Ioane is still number 3. Nocturnal Wright still reckons he's still number 3 in the pecking order, despite. Yep. I think it'd be a bit of a bolt up. I say he's not played at 10. He's not been first choice 10 for his own side, for crying out loud. So yeah,
it fits the way the Highlanders play. They play a very well, like the All Blacks sort of play, but with Hunt and Ioane, they play that sort of dual playmaker sort of role. And when Ioane's at fullback, he spends a lot of time in the line of first receiver, and you'll see, depending who your wingers are, the Nrekis, Gilberts, guys like that spend a lot of time at fullback. Mitch Hunt spends a lot of time at fullback as well. They're extremely fluid between those back 3 and in the halves.
What do you think about Ruben Love?
Oh Jesus! I thought Ray Xavier Rowe was a bit of a long shot.
Yeah, that's freaking. That would be the bolter to beat all bolters. No, not happening.
Okay, so we'll say that's a no then on that one. So I'll remove him as a bolter. Okay, if they do take three fly halves, then Josh Ioane was the 3rd fly half going into the World Cup. And will be there if they take 3. In the centres then, last year, they had 5. I'll just dump the names in there to start off with. Jack Goodhue straight away is injured. Rico Ioane nailed on. Anton Leonard-Brown nailed on. Laumape, I think he's gone. I can't see Laumape getting picked. In all honesty, with him leaving at the end of the season, we're preparing for Rugby World Cup. He's not going to be around then. Therefore, Stephen?
Boy, we're a bit thin on the ground there. I really don't know where to go after. You've obviously got those three names there. I reckon Havili gets picked as a midfielder.
You reckon?
Yeah, I do.
It's hard. You're all looking at the Crusaders. You're looking. People are talking Lester Whaianuku going into the All Blacks as midfield cover. Brad Nino as your midfield cover, and Havili. All guys that aren't. Would your first choice put them in your midfield? Any of those? I guess. But geez, you're not wrong about being thin on like Anton Leonard-Brown. Yeah, key, so key, boy. he's never probably been more valuable in his All Black career than right now, I think.
Yeah, Braden Ennell, he comes into it.
Braden Ennell for me would be ahead of David Havili. David Havili has been one of the best fullbacks in the country for years, and the All Blacks have gone, no, thank you. And you're just why not?
He has got a very good kicking game,
though. So I would put I could put David David Havili as a bolter. Aaron's got to mention Scott Gregory, but Scott Gregory, no, sorry, but not in All Black territory. The other person that is in here is Quintus Pyer.
It's got Gregory's been fired up this season. I give him his props. I ripped into him, but boy, he's a passionate lad. I like him. I really have liked him this season. He got ruffled up against the Waratahs. I can't remember who by off the ball. And boy, oh boy, he did not give 2 inches to that fella, and he ran into him about 4 consecutive times in a row every time he got the ball. And it was a Swinton, was it? I mean, he had a 2-on-1 overlap, and he just said, no. I mean, when you're leading by 50, I guess you can. But I like his passion. I like his commitment. He certainly wants to make an impact. And he's chat. Fits in.
Steve, he's been a real
great, fantastic player at NPC level, decent at Super Rugby, and has stepped up and shown himself to be a good Super Rugby player this year. Now he's playing in the right place. But an international, an All Black? No, sorry.
No. But, for a guy who, for me, there's a couple of players that have had great redemption for the Highlanders. And one has been Michael Collins, who got heavily criticised when he was up here playing for the Blues, out of position. Then we saw Scotty Gregory, and it was something that all us Northlanders knew, that playing fullback, he was being played out of position. We knew he was a midfielder, whether it was a centre or second five. He's a great redemption story. If Scott Gregory's having another season like this in 2022, then he comes into that. Then he comes into the equation. But he's only in his first season. But to throw his name out there, not even close. But man, full credit to the guy. He showed he can actually put on a hit, and he can take a hit as well. God, he took. I think Valentino might have buried him in the Canberra on the field in Canberra there, because that was a big hit, and he got up. That's the main thing.
Mm-hmm. Tough.
I don't think Peter Manga-Jensen's had a great season this season. I think Quintus Pyer might be ahead of him in there. I'm not sure, but look, one of the problems we have here is that Rico Rani and Antoinette Brown are both 13s. There are no 12s here, which is where your Lamapi comes in as well. But look, Aaron, I don't think we're not suggesting Michael Collins should be in the conversation here. We're just saying he's had a good redemption story at the Highlanders. When he goes over to Wales, mind you, at the end of this season, he may become a Welsh international soon. We'll have to wait and see. I'm just going to take a quick break, boys, while you have a quick discussion about your back three in there, and I'll leave you with the 5 names that we had last year. Obviously, one of those, Caleb Clark, he's not really injured, but he's not available, so I'll take him out of there. But have a quick thought as to names you want to put in there.
Be lucky to make the side based on form, to be brutally honest.
Agreed, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, so really and truthfully, talk about second year Blues. Probably not a bad thing that he's away playing sevens. Listen, Sevu Reece has been good. Has been pretty good all year, to be fair. So I reckon he makes the cut. I've got, and all those other names, you'd probably have them in again. D-Mac, Will Jordan, and Geordie Barrett. Although, once again, how bad is Damien McKenzie's injury?
Oh, he's just suspended, isn't he? From his red card.
Oh,
he's only been out for his red card, hasn't he? Yeah, I think he's all fit and ready to go, which would be nice. But boy, I tell you what, Geordie Barrett's a man who pretty much can't be left out now, isn't he? For me, I think he's the best man in the 15 jumper, and I've liked him at fullback since he started, and back in that Lions tour 4 years ago when he first burst onto that All Black scene in that 15 jumper, committed. I enjoyed him there, and I've never liked him on the wings, but like Ben Smith, a 15, not a 14 at all. But yeah, those 4 definitely in there. But gee, where do you get your 5th one from? Because is this where you look to like a Whaianuku now to be in that outside back position?
I agree. I think you almost like for like you go for a big powerful man, and I think he's Whaianuku. Yeah,
I like the spelling. Here we
go.
go.
To me, he's done enough. And boy, he's just so good with ball.
Don't worry, I've got it up on the other screen, so I'm typing it across.
Copying.
Absolutely, there's no way I'm doing that one from memory. Aaron makes a good point. Yeah, Will Jordan has made some blunders recently. Absolutely.
Yep.
Look, a bit like Geordie Barrett had a blunder in him or two a game a couple of seasons ago, but has now matured and has removed those from his game. Will Jordan just needs a couple of years to get them out of his game, and then he'll be amazing. Batman's throwing in Caleb Trask. I think that's a bit of a stretch, personally. Look, we've already got Geordie Barrett, Will Jordan, and Damon McKenzie as 15s. Caleb Trask is a 15 or a 10. He is not a winger, and that's where if there are going to be players to be picked to come in here, it is at wing. We're looking at a name that we're not sure about around this one.
Says the guy who threw up Ruben Love.
he also throw Ruben Love and John Enrique.
Yeah.
Jeez. I'd like to see Nariki, like, imagine what he could do if he, like, the Heideners give him a bit of space, but boy, he's a guy that just does something from nothing. You know, he's running backwards from a rubbish pass and he just tries something. The little chips he does, the little steps, he beats one man. He's just so electric and quick off the mark that he just makes things happen. But very rarely does he get like the space that Sevu Reece gets on the end of a Crusaders backline. Yeah. And that's what is kind of exciting about him is you know that he's playing fantastically, but you know that he could be even better if he was on the back of Crusaders backline or behind a Crusaders pack more like and an All Black jumper would be phenomenal, but I can't see it happening.
Nariki's a bit undersized. He is, but he's got a fantastic boot on him, and he's mobile as hell.
Damien McKenzie.
Damien McKenzie also. Justin Colby. I think John Enrique, yes, he is a bit undersized. That is going to count against him, but his feet, his speed, and also that boot. I think we underestimate how good a boot he's got on him because he used to play fly half, didn't he?
Yeah. Listen, if we were playing the Springboks tomorrow, there's one guy. If he wasn't on the field, I'd be really happy about, and that's Cheslin Colby, because the guy's just an amazing player, and once again, one of those players who can just make something out of absolute nothing. I just see you put in Salisi Rayasi. I think he's still got a ways to go before he's looking at an All Black jersey. We know the skill that he possesses, but does he go looking for work enough? I'm not so sure.
But again, this is another one of those ones that the Cornflake was talking about when we talked about the halfbacks. Do we bring someone in here to get an experience of a taste of the environment and told what to do up against Fiji and Samoa and say, hey, look, come in. I want to see work rate from you. Otherwise, we're never going to see you again. Could be the kind of we could get that kind of message. Conor Golden Bashett's been thrown out there in the live chat. Look, he had a great start to the season, but then got injured and is one for the future. As you said, Batman, but not for now. Absolutely. Bryce Heem could come into the conversation. He's been playing pretty well at wing. Julian Surveyor's not been going too bad recently. A couple of names to throw out there. A certain person who's going to scored 5 tries in Super Rugby. No, more shaking heads there. No one from the Chiefs you're interested in. Houston is the other winger, obviously down there in the Hurricanes. If
you're not looking at Nareki, you're not looking at Wes Houston. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I agree with
that. Bridge, I think he's out injured, isn't he? Because that's the obvious one we're missing, actually, but we're not mentioned. So I think Bridge is out injured as well. And then heading further south, and the Highlanders, they've been playing
We don't have wingers.
Yeah, you don't bother with wingers, do you?
We have Nareki, and that's it. I mean, Sam Gilbert's a guy that's been really, really good this season, but while we're throwing away names that, are such long shots and probably 6 years from selection, but, young talent, I'm excited by him. But yeah, I mean, we're playing Sarah Thompson on the wing, who, hey, he's a tiny little player, does basic things quite nicely, but geez, not in this discussion.
He's a centre through and through. He's not a winger.
He is, 100%. Yeah. But that's the thing. There's no out-and-out wingers. When you lose Garden Bashop, that other young fellow that played one game, looked really good, got injured for the rest of the season, and then the other one, lost three wingers, so you're left with no one.
You've lost 3 weeks. So we've got Conor Bashop, Freedom via Kulu, who's I think you're talking about there as well. Yes, so pretty surprised Solomon Alamalo hasn't had more game time down there in the Highlanders, to be honest with you. Someone who was talked about as an All Black about 3 seasons ago, and then has sort of gone backwards in his play. Interesting one there on that one. So looking at this then, looking at the list, if we head up there, there's potentially a prop spot available. There's a couple of loose forward spots. We might and then a couple in the centres and a winger spot available. So it's going to be some interesting room for some interesting calls next week. We'll just have to wait and see, and obviously we'll discuss it on the DrivingMaul next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Nocturnal Right says mysterious personal problems for Solomon, not injured. Okay, interesting in that one.
He's been a lot of time injured too. He was injured a bit this season as well. A bit of both, but he did have a few personal issues after his first few games. We wish him the best with all of that sort of stuff. As I say, at his best, he is in this conversation, but he's not had his best. He's not been at his best for a couple of seasons now. Let's say about 3 maybe seasons ago, he was in that conversation.
Guys, I was going to say something to ponder, guys. We're so thin on the ground in the midfield, especially at second 5. And the New Zealand Rugby Union, not to mention the All Black coach, must have known that we'd be thin at second 5. And yet they obviously weren't going to pay Nani Lamapi a decent salary to stay in the country. But it does make you wonder a bit, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Jack Goodhue, who's obviously the injured one there, you consider him to be better 13 than 12 as well. If I look down that list, Quinton Pyre has come through at 13. He's only moved to 12 this season. Braden Enor, the other name that's there, he's a 13. Peter Manga Jensen, I think, has also been a 13. There are no 12s in the country apart from Lamapi. Can you name another natural 12? TJ Fiani, but he's definitely not this level. Maybe Nankiville. But natural 12s are very thin on the ground.
We look who's been playing there. I'm just looking through some random team sheets from weeks gone by. The Crusaders have been using Dallas McLeod in midfield, not a 12. Where else am I looking? The Blues, Fiani is a name probably a lot of people have bandied about over the years, but let's be honest, I vote a down thumb to that. Alex Nankiville, the Chiefs, guy often used at 12. And the Highlanders, they just throw all their backline players there from Auckland, Collins and Gregory and all those. But I mean, none of those are really All Black level, are they? Really, let's be honest. When you say that was just one random week of Trans-Tasman lineups, and you've got 5-6 names there that you would just go, no thanks.
Havili will be named as a midfielder.
The question in here, someone threw out Thomas Manga Jensen has potential but injured. So maybe, as Aaron says, all the 12s being used are converted 13s, really. And yet, it wasn't that long ago that we had lots of 13s and no 12s. When you think back when we had Sonny Bill Williams, Tamani Valu was there. We had Moana, gives an M. Used to play for the Blues. Moala.
Goodness gracious.
No, I'm thinking about all the guys who played. They were all playing at the All Blacks before Anton Leonard-Brown and Jack Goodhue, and these were all the kind of guys that were there. They were all 12s, not 13s. And obviously the one from the Crusaders, so I've just gone blank of Crotty as well. They were playing 12s out of position in 13. Now we're playing 13s out of position in 12, which is it's just interesting. 4 years later, we're in the opposite position we were just after the 2011 or 2015, Rugby World Cup.
I agree with the comment in there from Darth saying it depends on your game plan, because it does. I mean, what sort of game plan will the All Blacks be playing? I guess it's going to be, in these first few test matches, it's just going to be score points and have fun and score lots of points and enjoy the game. But long-term vision, are they going to go for that sort of inside centre who plays a kicking game, or are they going to want a runner, or obviously they don't want a big bulldozing player like a Laumape, or they would have kept him around. So are they going to go for, like you say, two sort of 13s, two sort of players that play similar sort of games, defensively sound sort of players, just passes, take contact, set ball for the next phase of play, not be that sort of second playmaker that we used to seeing with a regular sort of 12, and like other countries do when they put, Australia puts Tamur in there, Owen Farrell goes in there for England, it's converted 10s out to 12, where we're doing the opposite, we're going 13s into 12. So it's the game plan you want to play, what you want to do if you want to have kicking options. We're going with the two 10s at 10 and 15. Everyone's doing something different. So it's I guess keeping ahead of the game, isn't it? And how they want to play. I guess this could be the plan all along, to just go with two 13s and have your second 10 option at fullback.
And I was going to say on Laumape, it's not as if his form had been really compelling this year.
Except for the Crusaders.
Yeah, it had been a real, except for when we played the Crusaders, it had been a real sort of mix and match this year. So maybe it was a case of the All Black coach thought, nah, maybe I can look in other places.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see that, see how the All Blacks go and how they want to play that 12 role. You've got three choices: you're kicking one, your distributor, or your bulldozer. It'll be interesting to see what kind of role. And I'm oversimplifying things to a great degree there. Obviously, all the players have them in there. Aaron says no standout 12 since Martin Nonu. Look, I think it's a bit harsh on Crotty. I think Crotty had that jersey tied down after that. I think since Crotty's gone is when it's been a bit of a question mark as to what's the centre combination going to be and how to and settle things down at that point. Well, boys, we have overrun. So, Stephen, I'm sorry there's no club chat this week, but we will try and get back to that next week. Thank you very much, Cornflake, for joining us. Been a long time no see, and great to have you back. Stephen, the ever dependable, wonderful to have you here again. And everyone here in the live chat, great to have you around. We'll be back next week at 8 p.m. And don't forget, I'll be here every morning at 7 a.m. with the morning sports briefing.